Shalom, everybody. Salam alaikum. I'm Nimrod Novick from Commanders for Israel Security, and I'm delighted to introduce and conduct a conversation with a good friend of mine, Aziz Alghashian from Saudi Arabia, who happens to be in Abu Dhabi at the moment. Aziz is a senior fellow of geopolitics and director of research at Observer Research Foundation Middle East. Prior to his academic career, he did officers training in Sandhurst Military Academy, and thereafter did his undergraduate studies and graduate studies in Great Britain. Starting with Saudi foreign policy, his postgraduate studies focused on Saudi-Israeli relations, including focusing his PhD thesis on that subject at the University of Essex. Aziz is widely published and much sought after commentator in Arab and international Western media. And perhaps most important to me, he's a very close friend and a collaborator in a lot of track two diplomacy, or what we like to call the group of peace conspirators. Aziz, welcome to Darkeinu and Commanders for Israel Security.
Thank you very much, Nimrod. Thank you very much for the generous introduction. It's such a pleasure to be joining you and joining this panel and joining this conversation. I just want to echo the friendship, and it's something that I cherish. I very much learned a lot from you, and it's something that I'm very proud of, and it's something that it is now more than ever, the discussions to enter the discussions, to have these discussions, but most importantly, I think in these very turbulent times, you get to see who really is your friends and who isn't really your friends, and to have co-peace conspirators is something that brings me great pride and hope for the future. So it's such a pleasure to join you on this journey.
Thanks very much. Let's dive straight in and maybe start with the end. That is the last 24 hours where President Trump floated the idea of clearing Gaza of 1.5 million of its population to Egypt and Jordan. Some of our extremist annexationists were elated. The more sober amongst us were alarmed. And both King Abdullah and President Sisi were very, very quick to issue a polite but firm no thank you. Should President Trump persist in his insistence on this notion, how do you anticipate Saudi handling it?
Well, I mean, to add to also what he said is that he didn't just say we want them to go out of Gaza and resettle in Egypt and Jordan. He wanted other Arab countries to facilitate and pay for it as well. So he basically wants us in the region to be complicit in this process of cleansing these people out of Gaza, which is completely out of the question. And I think when it comes to the Saudi's position is very much what you said, what you described regarding Jordan and Egypt's position of a polite but firm no way. I won't even say no thank you, but it's even a no way. And this is what I'm afraid of, having people misread these kinds of pragmatic or measured responses, is that there may be a hope that this can happen. And so I urge people to really not misinterpret the the tone of the rejection, but take a rejection as a rejection. And I think what we are going to see from Saudi is this kind of process of being very pragmatic with Trump, but also compartmentalizing this Palestinian issue and making sure that it doesn't spill over into other interests with Trump. But this means that, listen, this is going to be a space of disagreement so long as he's going to continue this. And in my opinion, the way the Saudi response will be the following, is that they're going to say no, but they're probably going to be a layer of non-officials that will explicate the tone and be perhaps sharper in saying no.
Got it. A quick one. Over the last few days, for your foreign minister, Faisal bin Farhan, was in both Beirut and Damascus. What do you make of it?
There is, I think, an opportunity that the Saudis and others in the region are trying to reap. Here, they had to do this, and they had to do this very carefully. It's clear that they sense that this so-called axis of resistance is diminishing, and they're trying to get Syria back into this Arab fold. But I think this process of bringing back to the so-called Arab fold requires a great deal of measurement, because they don't want to do this and kind of substitute one occupation with another occupation, or one external influencer with another external influencer. So they're trying to build the Syrian agency in order to allow the Syrians and the Syrian domestic will to invite the Arab will and the Arab process to come back. Moreover, I think there's also a geopolitical aspect here of not trying to spook and provoke kind of any desperate responses that could come out of Iran or any other proxies. And that's why you can see in the language, a lot of the times it's returning back to the Arab and Islamic fold. And the sequence of this is telling. So there's a great deal of measurement, but, you know, trust you and me, they're very much working to solidifying this kind of new reality in the geopolitical landscape.
And now to the real thing. You know, most Israelis are really are exposed, are very curious about Saudi position on normalization, regional integration, and everything that goes with it.
Yeah.
We hear a lot of different attributions of what Saudi policy really is, and the cultural gap doesn't help here, where people don't always take Saudi statements at face value.
Yes.
Can you please articulate what is the Saudi real position and what are the considerations that go into it?
When it comes to the Saudi position, I think the Saudis have been very consistent. And the fact that they are willing to have normal relations with Israel, but the fact that a lot of the people try to overlook this aspect of but, the condition. And this is when people misread the Saudi position. And that's why it's important for everyone to really contextualize the Saudi response and to say, look, that this but is something, you know, that ought to be looked at, and is basically saying, listen, that there has to be a Palestinian solution to this path to normalization. And even in recent months, they've changed the sequence from the yes, but to the no until, in an effort to try to communicate to the audiences that, you know, we're really trying to communicate the fact that there is no normalization unless there is a credible pathway to a Palestinian state. Another thing is that the Saudis now, especially after the war, have to have a credible Palestinian component in any part of a normalization, because for different reasons. There's the domestic reason. This war has exasperated a great deal of tensions and sensitivities in the region. Secondly, I think the domestic understanding of the dynamics of the Palestinian-Israeli situation and in the occupation and the management of this conflict by Netanyahu, and the idea of trying to weaken the moderates and embolden the extremists has come to the forefront of people's understanding of the situation. And so therefore, it's not something that could be swept under the rug. And I think just the last point of why the Saudis need this is something that I think unites us all, or should unite us all, which is the fact that this is going to be a regional problem. It's going to be a regional security problem if this situation continues with a continuous occupation, with a continuous land grabbing, and which then will result in more extremism and resistance and etc. from the other side, which is only going to spill over into the region. And it's just going to create a regional situation that's not good for anybody. We have to unite on a regional security lens that securitizes the lack of peace. And that is why it's crucial that the Saudis require a Palestinian component that's credible and that could facilitate genuine integration, not just Israel, but also the integration of Palestinians into the region as well. And that's the way forward.
Aziz, I wish we had another 10 minutes. I wish we had another hour. As always, thoughtful, clear, and straightforward. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Nimrod. I really appreciate your invitation, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate the panel and the conference. Thank you very much for having me and for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you.
مع السلامة.
مع السلامة حبيبي. مع السلامة.